Is this a team up or a babysitter episode? Hi everyone and welcome to another Ranger, and of course everyone knows I'm March 9234. Today I'll be discussing Trakeena's Revenge Part 2. Now of course, just like the first part, this episode is adapted from the GoGo V VS Gingaman movie. Now the episode resumes where we left off from the end of Part 1. We see that Heather's inside of the Lightspeed truck. She gets out and we see that the Rangers are all passed out on the floor, assumingly after the explosion that Triskull had triggered demorphed everyone. Now, of course, this episode starts off with a big issue right from the get-go. We see that the Lost Galaxy Rangers and the Lightspeed Rangers are alive and well after the explosion. Of course, Triskull disappears for no reason whatsoever. This is a constant problem with, villains. We thought that we killed them. They simply leave and don't actually double check it and causing all the Rangers to stay alive. So after Heather and the Rangers regroup and head back to the Aqua base, and we see that, of course, Triskull returns to where Trakeena is. We see that the parents of Heather are nearly depleted of life force, and we see that the canisters are nearly filled to capacity. And of course, we finally get the reveal where Olympus is spying on the group, and it finally is like, oh, Trakeena and Triskull have been double-crossing us from the get-go, and of course, Queen Banshir is not happy about this. And of course, Olympus is going to take revenge on this. He forms basically a special knife and some poison that will just instantly kill Trakeena right then and there. So while Olympus is getting prepared for his, double-cross, we head back to Miranoi, and we finally get to see the last two Quasar Sabers that are left inside the rock finally taken out by Kendricks and Damon. Now here's one of my major gripes with this episode. Why was Kendricks and Damon not on Earth with the other three? It really made no sense whatsoever story-wise. There's no explanation why they were left over. For example, Leo never said, oh, the other Rangers need to be on Miranoi to protect it just in case. Nothing whatsoever. And the issues in these team-up episodes are also compounded by the constant use of Heather. Heather, for all intents and purposes, is a plot point. She really is just there to get the story moving. Heather really should not have been used this extensively in this team-up. Team-up episodes are specifically made for fans who enjoy the series as a whole, so we get to see the previous team one last time, either to give us wrap-up story plot points or just to see the cast members. But in this case, it was totally wasted. We get no explanation of why Kendricks and Damon are missing from the team for half the time. Although the main reason why this happened was not because of the writers, because they had to deal with the footage of GoGo V and Gingaman. They did the exact same thing in the movie where Sai and Hyatt, they were just missing for real no reason as well. But the writers for Lightspeed Rescue could have worked around with this. If they simply had cut Heather from the episode, we could have gotten either a quick explanation why they're not there, and then either shoot some stuff basically where Kendricks and Damon are talking about each other, and we can get a quick backstory. What happened to Corone, and how did Kendricks die from when she got killed with the and gave the Quasar powers up. And it's also justifiable the reason why Amy Miller's didn't want to come back for her character. Now, originally in Part 1, I had said basically, I thought it was basically because her makeup and it would have been too complicated for her to come. But the real reason is basically because she saw that this kid was taking so much time across the two parts. She said, well, why should I even come back here? I'm basically useless. So she simply just didn't bother coming back. When we head back to Earth, we see that Carter and Heather are together again in front of the building. And Carter goes and asks, well, you got to go in the building and pull the fire alarm. What? This makes no sense whatsoever. Why would you, the person who is a Power Ranger, who has the authority to simply go into the building, ask the people to evacuate without setting off alarms and alerting the monsters on the 13th floor, ask a little girl to pull the fire alarm? One, it's illegal, and obviously that's the reason why Carter's saying that you shouldn't be doing this in normal situations. But two, it shows that Carter's completely stupid. I understand they wanted to keep their plan, secret from the monsters on the 13th floor, and their basic plan was to sneak all the Rangers in with the fire department and police department that were arriving on scene. You could have done that too without Heather's help. Just simply walk into the building, tell everyone to quietly evacuate. This is a Power Ranger / fire emergency. Please evacuate the building. That's all he really needed. So of course, when Heather pulls the alarm, of course, everyone is alerted. Oh my God, fire, fire, fire. And of course, the monsters on the 13th floor are alerted to what's going on. And of course, Trakeena says to Triskull, figure out what's going on. And we see that all the Lightspeed Rangers and the Lost Galaxy Rangers are basically getting out all the civilians inside rooms and of course on the main lobby of the building. Once the entire building is finally evacuated, the other Rangers stay behind while the 2 Red Rangers head into the building onto the roof, and when they finally meet up with Tri-Skull, and they go out into the main fight with the 2 Red Rangers. Now, the fight was pretty good. I'm not going to be complaining about that. But Tri-Skull's power level was totally inconsistent to what they were doing. Basically, at the end of part 1, we saw Tri-Skull himself verse 8 Rangers. He took them out with ease, but in this case, Carter simply takes him out with the battle booster. If you could have just done that with the battle booster, why didn't you do it before? So eventually Leo and Carter enter the building and eventually figure out where the room they were hiding in is located, and they break down the door and they finally see that people's life forces are being taken, and of course they figure out what 2 and 2 together, and they're like, oh, the life forces are from the people are being sucked into these canisters, and they have to basically stop everything. Where Trakeena finally gives her big reveal. Just at the last minute where the Red Rangers are going to be defeated, Kendricks and Damon come out of nowhere and try to fight off the ghouls. Again, there's no explanation. Kendricks and Damon just come out of nowhere. I don't understand how they knew where to go, what building, what was going on. I assume Kendricks and Damon came back to Earth, went to the Aqua base. While Kendricks, Damon, and the Red Rangers are fighting it off inside the 13th floor, Chad has his morpher on, and we're hearing Trakeena on the morpher preparing to kill the Rangers, and of course the other Rangers rush up in order to save them, when Trakeena blasts all the Rangers and they get thrown outside the wall. I also like to point out, though, is that the wall, you can clearly see where the wall actually breaks apart. It's way too obvious when they break it apart. So of course Trakeena's weapon is too powerful. The Rangers' powers demorph, unfortunately, mid-fall. And fortunately enough, since we have the Lightspeed Rescue vehicle there, they simply deploy their special airbag that simply deploys, and we see all the Rangers safely land in the airbag. Although kind of confusing how we only see 1 Ranger drop in the airbag per time until we see that all 4 of them in there later in the wider shots. After the Rangers get out of the airbag, we eventually see that Olympus finally arrives to deal with his poison knife in order to kill Trakeena. And we get both teams finally the more fully. Again, just like last time, they were using the Gingaman henshin sequence, but in this case it's a little bit more stupid, mainly because remember, Damon is black, but Hayate Gingaman is white. So when you see his henshin sequence, Damon's hand turns into a white guy's hands. Now let's talk about Ryan and Mike. Now everyone knows at this point in time, Ryan is missing from the series because he had to go on to his journey in order to figure out the stuff with the snake. But since this is a team-up episode, Ryan really should have been there. There's really no acknowledgement why Ryan is not there. There was no chance like Carter, oh, we should call Ryan. There was nothing. It's just totally ignored, making Ryan even more pointless to the Lightspeed series as a whole. Now, of course, people are going to complain, well, why do you want Mike there? He lost his powers in the end of Lost Galaxy. Yes, I understand that, but in this case, it's a team up. There have been various other times where we got BS excuses or no explanations at all. More so mainly because Bull Tauros was actually in the Gingaman vs. GoGo 5 team up. And also pretty much the Magna Defender, he's a spirit, he's dead. He pretty much probably can do anything. He gave Mike the powers originally, so why can't he just reforge the powers? So of course, both teams finally break out into a fight with Olympus, and Viper comes out of nowhere, and we are seeing all the Batlings fight. Of course, most of this fight is basically American footage because of, again, the same reasons, because Bull Black was actually in the original team up. They had to actually cut out his footage. And of course, we're seeing the team ups between the various colors, yellow with yellow, blue with blue, and so on. And eventually we see that the Rangers do their multi-weapon finisher, which causes a continuity issue because when the Rangers actually shoot Olympus, we see that Pierre appears out of nowhere during the stock footage. There's no explanation of where he came from, why he's there, he's just there. And of course, Olympus figures out, I can't fight these Rangers myself, so I'm going to throw my poison knife into the life force collector that Trakeena is using. At the exact same time, Trakeena is actually finally using the life force machine, and because it's finally filled up, and of course she's trying to mutate back into her green form. We get a couple of flashbacks of actually the suit, but then when Olympus's poisons knife and hits one of the tubes, it actually causes her to transform into a mutant monster. Now, I totally hated this story point. Obviously, they had to use this story point because they have to deal with the, Gingaman vs. GoGo 5 footage. I understand that. But it makes the Trakeena character totally pointless. Mainly because she doesn't do anything, and she turns into, one of those generic monsters that the Rangers have to fight. So it really made no sense of why they even bother making Trakeena in here and not just doing a generic another person to be mutated into the monster. Totally wasting any potential for this character. Now remember, since this movie was originally released in McDonald's first, This is the actual first appearance of the Omega Megazord. Now, of course, when people originally saw this on VHS, everyone was totally confused. The Omega Megazord, what? And we can get new Zords that can fly into space and transform into this new Megazord. So a couple of people were kind of confused during this moment. Now, another issue that this episode brings up is Max Solar Zord. Now again, if the Max Solar Zord could be controlled automatically, what is the point of Ryan being in the series? Now, of course, in the original Verse movie, Bull Tauros was actually pretty much in the beginning half of this fight. Now, whenever we're seeing the Omega Megazord fight during this sequence, they had to do a lot of editing around in order to cut out Bull Taurus' appearance during the main fight. Now, of course, everyone remembers that the Galactic Beasts were left on Miranoi. Now, they weren't killed at the end of Lost Galaxy, that was all right, but we had to get this weird thing where Leo is pointing out, oh, well, we don't have the Galactic Beasts, they're not on Earth, but then all of a sudden, we magically see the Galactic Beasts are here. How the hell did they come to Earth? It made no sense. It was just a really bad cop-out, because again, they were dealing with stock footage, because again, Gingaman was not on a different planet, they're on Earth, so they would just simply arrive at the point when they're needed. So as usual, we see the Galaxy Megazord finally form one more time, and then we see it to team up with the Omega Megazord. Unfortunately, the Trakeena monster is much more too powerful, and basically shoots this huge flame ball right at them. When the Megazords actually do get struck by this attack, we actually do see the Torzord for a split second during the spark explosion. Unfortunately, though, the Galaxy Megazord was simply disabled, and we saw that the Rangers all had powered down and exited the Megazord and landed on the floor. And of course, the Lightspeed Rangers were totally concerned that, of course, Trakeena might go after them since they're since they're basically defenseless, and they simply put them inside the Omega Megazord. And at this point in time, since the Lost Galaxy Rangers are still inside their Lights of Orion mode, the Lights of Orion simply activate and power up the Omega Megazord into its Lights of Orion power-up mode, just like the Galaxy Megazord. Now, I do like to point out you cannot actually do this with the toy itself. So, of course, once the Omega Megazord is fully powered up with the Lights of Orion, they simply do their double weapons attack finisher, and we finally get Trakeena out of the way, making her again more pointless. So after the Megazord fight, we get one more final group shot with all the Rangers, and of course, you know, since Heather helped out, she becomes this honorary junior ranger, and of course, Carter presents her with, you know, a special Lightspeed Rescue badge for her to be all happy with. And as usual, we see Joel signing one of his stupid ad papers in order to impress the girls. And of course, you know, Kendricks and Maya are like, yeah, no, we don't really care about this. You're not really that special. And of course, we get these little fun moments where Leo's saying, I actually kind of liked going back into action. And of course, Kaya's like, yeah, only you would agree with this. You're the one who got almost blown up by Trakeena in the finale. The cool thing I like about the ending is that the Lightspeed Rangers actually asked the Lost Galaxy Rangers to actually stay. Because normally you would kind of get that, well, why wouldn't they ask them to stay? It kind of makes sense. But in normal team-ups, we usually never get that. We simply say goodbye and they simply leave. It's like, at least this one is a little bit more realistic. And of course, the last scene, we finally get to see the Lightspeed Rangers and the Lost Galaxy Rangers morph, and we say finally goodbye for the last time we're ever going to see Lost Galaxy on TV. Now, overall, I have to give the episode a 2 out of 5. It really wasn't that good. Again, because of Heather taking off most of the time. Again, this is a team up for fans who love the past and present teams, and we don't really care about an unknown character, Heather, out of all people. It should have focused more on Trakeena. We could have gotten a little bit more backstory between Kendricks and what happened to Carone. Another main gripe is with Ryan and the lack of Mike. Okay, if you didn't want to bring Mike into the story due to his lack of powers, at least bring him into the thing. At least we could see him, but we got nothing of that. No questioning of like where Ryan is. He just simply is missing on his quest. And the Rangers don't simply like, oh, we should call Ryan for backup. Nothing. What do you guys personally think? Do you think the episode was all right? Or do you think that the issues with Ryan, Mike, Kendricks, Damon, lack of being there was a big negative toward this episode? Or what do you guys think? Of course, leave your comments below on what you think about this episode. And of course, leave your comments for future episodes you would like me to review. For next week's episode, I'll be doing Heir Apparent from Power Rangers Mystic Force. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys right back here next week.